I'm sitting in a courtroom that smells like old wood and nervous sweat, watching my own mother lie under oath. She's wearing her church blouse, the navy one with the little flowers she saves for occasions when she wants to look respectable, and her hands are folded in her lap like she's praying. Maybe she is. Maybe she's asking God to forgive her for what she's about to say. Mrs. Cole, the lawyer says, my wife's lawyer, a guy named Brennan with slicked back hair and a suit that probably cost more than my monthly rent. Can you describe your son's temperament? My mother shifts in her seat. She won't look at me. Ethan has always had a temper. The words hang in the air like smoke. I feel my jaw tighten, and I force myself to breathe through my nose. My own lawyer, a rumpled guy named Ed Kowalski who works out of a strip mall office, touches my arm gently. A reminder, stay calm, don't react, don't prove them right. Can you give us an example? Brennan asks, and there's this practiced sympathy in his voice that makes me want to throw something. Mom clears her throat. There was a time, about 2 years ago, when he punched a hole in the wall, in his own home. Lena told me about it later. She said she was frightened. What she doesn't say, I'd just lost a 16-year-old kid on a call, drug overdose. I'd tried everything, worked on him for 30 minutes while his mother screamed in the background. When I got home that night, I couldn't breathe, couldn't think, and yeah, I put my fist through the drywall in our garage. Not in front of Lena, not even in the house proper. In the garage, alone, because I needed something to break that wasn't me. Lena, my soon-to-be ex-wife, sits at the other table in a soft gray sweater that makes her look vulnerable. Her blonde hair is pulled back in a simple ponytail. No makeup, or at least it looks that way. Minimal jewelry. She's playing the part perfectly. The abused wife, the victim. She even has a tissue balled up in her hand, though I haven't seen her cry yet. When she catches me looking, she dabs at her completely dry eyes. This didn't start in court. None of this started in court. It started 3 months ago, on a Tuesday night in October when I thought I was living one life and discovered I'd been living in a completely different one the whole time. I was 38 years old. I'd been married to Lena for 7 years. I worked as a paramedic in a small city in Massachusetts, one of those places that used to have mills and factories and now has a lot of empty buildings and people trying to pretend everything's fine. I worked nights mostly, rotating shifts, the kind of hours that leave you tired in your bones and grateful for coffee that's more sludge than liquid. Lena worked as a receptionist at an orthopedic clinic downtown. Good insurance, decent pay, regular hours. She liked nice things, liked posting pictures on Instagram of our life together, liked being the wife who seemed to have it all figured out. She had a way of making our modest life look aspirational, the right filter, the right angle, and suddenly our IKEA furniture looked designer. We had problems like everyone has problems. I worked too much. She wanted more attention. We bickered about money, about whose turn it was to do the dishes, about whether we should get a dog. Normal stuff. Or so I thought. Grant Morrison had been my friend since high school. Not my best friend, but in that tier just below. We'd played football together, gone to the same parties, stayed in touch over the years in that casual way men do. He sold cars now, managed the sales floor at a big dealership on Route 9. He was good at it too. Grant had always been good at talking to people, at making them feel special, at closing deals. The night everything crashed started normally. I'd just finished a 12-hour shift. We'd had 3 calls, including a bad one, a car accident on the interstate with a family of 4. The parents made it. The kids didn't. I was tired in a way that goes beyond physical. My partner, Jamie, had offered to grab beers, but I'd declined. I just wanted to go home, take a shower, and sleep for a week. Lena had texted me earlier in the evening, "Girls' night, don't wait up," followed by a red heart emoji. She did that sometimes, went out with her friends from the clinic, came home tipsy and giggly around midnight. I never minded. Everyone needs their space. I'd lent him my drill a month ago, and he'd mentioned he had the washer I could borrow for my deck. The dealership was on my way home anyway, sort of. A 5-minute detour. The lot was mostly empty at 10:30 on a Tuesday night. The big floodlights were on, making the rows of cars gleam like beetles. I pulled around to the back, where the sales offices were, and that's when I saw Lena's car. Her little white Accord, the one with the yoga studio sticker on the back window and the dent in the passenger door from when she'd clipped a pole at Target. It was parked behind the building, not in the main lot. Hidden, I realized later, deliberately hidden. I sat in my truck for a minute, trying to make sense of it. Maybe she'd gotten a ride with someone else. Maybe one of her girlfriends worked here. Maybe there was a perfectly reasonable explanation. But my stomach knew. My stomach knew before my brain caught up. There was a sick, tight feeling in my gut. The same feeling I got right before we arrived at a call, and I could already tell it was going to be bad. I got out of my truck quietly. The sales offices had big windows, the kind you can see through from the outside when the lights are on inside. Most of the offices were dark, but one had a warm glow, the blinds pulled down but not quite closed. Music was playing inside, something low and jazzy. I could hear voices, laughter. I walked closer. My work boots were quiet on the pavement. I could see shadows moving behind the blinds, 2 figures close together. Too close. The blinds had a gap, just a couple of inches where they didn't quite meet the window frame. I looked through it. Grant was sitting on his desk, shirt unbuttoned. Lena was standing between his legs, her hands on his chest, his hands on her waist. Her coat, the expensive camel one I'd bought her for Christmas last year, was draped over his office chair. There were wine glasses on the desk beside them. Her blouse was on the floor. I should have walked away right then. I should have gotten in my truck, called a lawyer, and handled it like a civilized adult. That's what a reasonable person would do. I took out my phone instead. My hands were shaking, but I managed to open the camera, switch to video, and point it at the window. The angle wasn't great, but I could see them clearly enough. I could hear them too. Lena's voice, breathy and laughing, saying Grant's name. His voice lower, saying something I couldn't make out. I recorded for maybe 30 seconds. Long enough. Then I walked to the office door and tried the handle. It was unlocked. I didn't knock. I just opened the door, stepped inside, and hit the light switch. The overhead fluorescence flickered on, harsh and bright. Lena screamed. Grant jumped off the desk so fast he nearly fell. For a second, nobody moved. We all just stood there in this frozen tableau, like someone had paused a movie at the worst possible moment. Grant was wearing pants, at least, though his belt was undone. He was also wearing black dress socks, which for some reason was the detail that made it all feel real. This wasn't a nightmare. This was my friend, in his socks, with my wife half naked in his office. "Ethan," Lena said, and her voice was this strange mix of shock and guilt, and I swear, annoyance. Like I was interrupting something. "It's not, don't," I said. My voice came out flat. Calm. Weird how calm I sounded when inside I was screaming. "Don't say it's not what it looks like. I have a video of what it looks like." Grant had frozen with his hands up, like I'd pulled a gun instead of a phone. "Listen, man, I can explain." I crossed the room in 3 steps and shoved him. Hard. He stumbled backward into the desk and papers scattered. The wine glasses tipped over, red wine spreading across employee performance reports and financing contracts. Lena's blouse got soaked. "Ethan, stop!" Lena grabbed my arm and I jerked away from her. I pointed at Grant. "We've been friends for 20 years. "I know, and I'm sorry, I hit him. Just once, a solid punch to the jaw that snapped his head to the side and made my knuckles sing with pain. He didn't fight back. He just stood there, one hand on his face, staring at me with wide eyes. "This is assault," he said, but his voice shook. "I could call the cops." "Do it," I said. "Call them. Wonder what your boss would think of that." Lena was scrambling to get her blouse, trying to wring out the wine, her hands shaking. "Ethan, please, we need to talk about this." I looked at her, really looked at her. 7 years of marriage, 7 years of me working doubles so she could have her spa days and her nice dinners and her Instagram perfect life. 7 years of me believing we were a team. "There's nothing to talk about," I said. "Get your stuff out of the house by Friday." "You can't just... watch me." I turned and walked out. Behind me, I heard Grant saying something to Lena, his voice urgent and low. I heard her start to cry, those big theatrical sobs she could turn on when she needed sympathy. I didn't look back. I got in my truck and sat there for a minute, hands on the steering wheel, trying to catch my breath. My phone was still in my hand, the video saved. Evidence. I didn't know yet that I'd need it, but some part of me knew to keep it. I drove home through empty streets. The city looked different now, like I was seeing it through someone else's eyes. The closed storefronts, the flickering streetlights, the groups of kids hanging out on corners. It all felt hostile and strange. Our house, the little 2-bedroom cape we'd bought 5 years ago, was dark. I let myself in and stood in the living room, looking at all the things we'd accumulated together. The couch we'd argued about buying, the TV mounted on the wall, the framed photos of us smiling on beaches and at weddings and in front of Christmas trees. All of it was a lie, or maybe not a lie exactly, but definitely not the truth. I sat down at our kitchen table and opened my laptop. I Googled Divorce Lawyer Massachusetts and started reading reviews. At 3 a.m, I drafted an email to the highest-rated one who didn't look too expensive. I attached the video. I wrote, "My wife is cheating. I want a divorce. How fast can we make this happen?" I hit send and closed the laptop. Lena came home at 4:30. I heard her car in the driveway, heard her key in the lock. She came into the kitchen and stopped when she saw me sitting there in the dark. Ethan, she said, we need to talk. No, we don't. It was a mistake. One mistake. You drove me to it. You're never here. You're always working. I was lonely. Stop. We can work on this. We can go to counseling. Please, I love you. You don't get to do that, I said. You don't get to make this my fault. You didn't trip and fall onto his dick, Lena. You made a choice, probably a lot of choices, over a long time. She started crying again, the real kind this time, messy and desperate. Please don't do this. Please, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I stood up. I emailed a lawyer. You'll get the papers soon. I want you out of the house by the end of the week. This is my house too. Then we'll sell it and split it. Whatever. I don't care. I just can't look at you anymore. I walked past her, went upstairs, and locked myself in our bedroom. I heard her crying in the living room for a while. Eventually, she went quiet. When I came down in the morning, she was gone. I thought that was the hard part. I thought the worst was over. I'd found out, I'd confronted them, I'd filed for divorce. All that was left was paperwork and dividing up the furniture. I was wrong. I was so completely, devastatingly wrong. Before we continue, hit the hype button, subscribe, and like the video to help the channel grow. Tell us which city you are from in the comments. We'd love to get to know our audience better. The divorce papers were served to Lena 4 days later. I'd moved fast, and Ed Kowalski, my lawyer, had been efficient. The papers were basic. Irreconcilable differences. Request for equitable division of assets. No request for alimony from either party. Clean, simple, over. Lena's response came a week later, and it was neither clean nor simple. She wanted alimony. She wanted half my pension. She wanted the house, or her share of it, plus compensation for emotional distress. And attached to her counterfiling was something I hadn't expected, a formal claim that I had been emotionally abusive throughout our marriage. Ed called me into his office to go over it. His office was in a strip mall between a nail salon and a pizza place, and it smelled like garlic and acetone. He wore reading glasses that sat crooked on his nose and had a coffee mug that said, "World's Okayest Lawyer." "This is standard," he said, tapping the papers with a pen. "In contentious divorces, especially when there's infidelity on one side, the guilty party often tries to muddy the waters. Make it not about what they did, but about what you allegedly did." "I never touched her," I said. "Never, not once." "I believe you, but she's claiming emotional abuse. That's harder to prove or disprove. It's her word against yours." "What does she say I did?" Ed scanned the document. "Let's see. You were volatile and unpredictable. You had angry outbursts that made her fear for her safety. You were controlling with money. You isolated her from friends and family. Standard abuse playbook stuff. I felt sick. That's insane. I worked nights. She went out whenever she wanted. I never controlled anything. Do you have proof of that? Proof that I didn't do something? Proof that she had freedom, that she wasn't isolated, texts where she talks about going out, social media posts, credit card statements showing she spent money freely, anything that contradicts her narrative." I thought about it. Yeah, I can get that stuff." "Good. Get it. Because here's what's going to happen. She's going to paint you as the bad guy. She's going to say the affair was a symptom of a larger problem, that she was driven into Grant's arms by your behavior. She's going to try to make herself sympathetic." "She cheated on me." "I know, and we have proof. But infidelity doesn't automatically disqualify someone from alimony in Massachusetts. The court looks at the whole picture. If she can convince a judge you were abusive, she's got a better shot at getting what she wants." I left Ed's office feeling hollowed out. It wasn't enough that she'd betrayed me. Now she was going to lie about who I was, try to turn me into a monster to save herself. I should have known it would get worse. Lena had always been good at controlling narratives. It was part of why her Instagram looked so perfect. She knew how to frame things, what to say, what to leave out. And she knew how to talk to my family. She called my mother first. I found out about it 2 days after getting Lena's counterfiling. My sister, Rachel, sent me a screenshot of a group text. It was from our family chat, the one I'd been ignoring because I couldn't deal with explaining everything yet. "Mom, Lena called me today. She's very upset. Are you okay, Ethan?" Aunt Linda: "What's going on?" Mom: "Ethan and Lena are getting divorced. She said things got very bad. I'm worried about both of them." Rachel: "Bad how?" Mom: "She didn't want to go into details, but she mentioned some incidents. I knew he had anger issues." Rachel: "What the hell, Mom?" Mom: "I'm just saying what she told me. Ethan does have a temper. Remember when he punched that wall?" Aunt Linda: "Is he drinking again?" I stared at the screenshot. Drinking again? I'd had a brief period in my 20s, right after my dad died, when I'd drunk too much. I'd gone to a few AA meetings, gotten my shit together, and hadn't had more than an occasional beer in over 10 years. But family memory is selective. Bring up one old mistake, and suddenly it's a pattern. I called Rachel. I don't know. Lena called her, gave her some sob story. Mom ate it up. I'm not the bad guy here. Lena cheated. I have proof. I know. I believe you. But Mom, you know how she is. She wants to believe everyone's telling the truth. She doesn't want to think badly of Lena. Lena's lying. I know. But maybe you should tell Mom your side before Lena poisons the well completely. It was good advice. I should have followed it. But I was angry and tired, and part of me thought my own mother should have trusted me without needing convincing. I was wrong about that, too. The next week, Mom called me. Ethan, honey, we need to talk. About what? About what's happening with you and Lena. She came by the house yesterday. She was very upset. Of course she did. Mom, she cheated on me with Grant. I caught them together. There was a long pause. She said you'd say that. Because it's true. She said you've been paranoid, that you've been accusing her of things for months. She said she went to Grant's office for advice about your behavior, and you misunderstood what you saw. I actually laughed. It came out bitter and sharp. I have a video, Mom. Do you want to see it? I can send you a video of your daughter-in-law half naked in another man's office. Don't be crude. I'm not being crude. I'm telling you what happened. Lena says you have a temper, that you've been scaring her. When have I ever... You punched a wall, Ethan, 2 years ago. She told me about it at the time. She was frightened. I punched a wall in the garage after a bad call. A kid died, Mom. I needed to hit something, so I hit drywall instead of falling apart. That's not abuse. She said there were other incidents. She's lying. Why would she lie? Because she's trying to get alimony and she knows if she's just the cheater, she won't get anything. So she's making me the villain. Mom sighed, that particular sigh that meant she was disappointed in me. I don't want to take sides. You already are. I just think maybe there's more to this story than you're telling me. People don't just cheat for no reason. That sentence sat between us like a third person on the line. Wow, I said. Okay. Ethan. I hung up. 2 weeks later, I got a call from Ed. Your wife's lawyer has filed a witness list. Your mother's on it. What? She's listed as a character witness for your wife. I sat down. I was in my apartment, a cramped one-bedroom in a building that smelled like old carpet and other people's cooking. I'd moved out of the house because I couldn't stand being there. The landlord was a guy I'd met on a call once, and he'd given me a deal on a month-to-month lease. It wasn't much, but it was mine. She's going to testify? I said. My own mother? Apparently. She can refuse, but if she's willing, can they do that? Unfortunately, yes. Family members can testify in divorce proceedings if they have relevant information about the character or behavior of either party. I felt like I was falling. She's going to get up there and say I'm abusive. We don't know that for sure. Yes, we do. Lena's been coaching her, probably for weeks. Ed was quiet for a moment. Start gathering evidence, texts, emails, anything that shows your relationship with your family was fine until Lena started talking to them. Anything that shows she had no prior concerns about your behavior. I spent the next 3 days going through my phone, my email, old messages. I found texts from Lena complaining about work, about her friends, about trivial stuff. Never once did she mention being afraid of me. Never once did she say I'd hurt her or scared her. I sent it all to Ed. But I knew it wouldn't be enough. Because Lena wasn't just rewriting our marriage. She was rewriting my whole life, turning me into someone I'd never been. And my own mother was going to help her do it. Mom insisted on a family dinner. To talk things through, she said when she called. To clear the air. There's nothing to clear, I told her. Please, Ethan, for me, Rachel will be there. We can all sit down like adults. I should have said no. But some stupid, hopeful part of me thought maybe I could make her understand. Maybe if I explained everything calmly, showed her the evidence, she'd see the truth. So I went. Mom's house was the same house I'd grown up in, a small ranch with vinyl siding and a yard full of garden gnomes. The smell hit me when I walked in. Pot roast, the meal she made when she wanted to fix things. Comfort food for uncomfortable conversations. Rachel was already there, sitting at the kitchen table with a beer. She gave me a tight smile. Hey. Hey. Mom came out of the kitchen, wiping her hands on a dish towel. Ethan, honey, thank you for coming. Where's Lena? She'll be here soon. I wanted us all to talk together. You invited her. She's still part of this family. She's cheating on me with my friend. Mom flinched. We don't know. Yes, we do. I have proof. I've told you this. The doorbell rang before Mom could respond. She went to answer it, and a moment later, Lena walked into the kitchen. She'd dressed carefully, a soft blue sweater, jeans, minimal makeup. Her hair was down, loose around her shoulders. She looked young and vulnerable and nothing like the woman I'd found in Grant's office. Hi, she said quietly, not quite meeting my eyes. I didn't respond. We sat down at the table. Mom brought out the pot roast, the mashed potatoes, the green beans. Like this was a normal family dinner. Like we were celebrating something instead of dissecting the corpse of my marriage. I think we should all say what we're feeling, Mom said once the food was served, in a calm, respectful way. I'll start, Lena said. Her voice was soft, measured. I made a terrible mistake. I know that. I hurt Ethan, and I'm so sorry. But I want everyone to understand that it wasn't just one moment. Things had been difficult for a long time. Because you were cheating, I said. Because you were never home, she shot back, and there was an edge under the softness now. You worked all the time, you were distant, you shut me out. I was working to support us. You were avoiding me, avoiding our problems. Rachel cleared her throat. Okay, but Lena, you still cheated. That's on you. Lena's eyes filled with tears. I know it is, but I was lonely and scared. Ethan has a temper, and I never knew when I'd what? I leaned forward. When did I ever lay a hand on you? It's not always physical. You'd yell, you'd slam doors, you'd punch walls. I punched a wall once in the garage alone after a kid died on my watch. You don't think that's scary? You don't think coming home to that was terrifying? You weren't even home when it happened. I saw the hole in the wall. I saw how angry you were. Mom spoke up. Lena, did Ethan ever hurt you physically? Lena hesitated, just for a second. No, not directly. But the anger, the outbursts. I felt like I was walking on eggshells. That's bullshit, Rachel said. Ethan's not violent. I've known him his whole life. You don't live with him, Lena said. You don't see what I see. I felt something snap inside me. What you see? You saw Grant's office ceiling. That's what you saw. Ethan, Mom said sharply, don't be crude. I stood up. The chair scraped against the floor, loud in the sudden silence. Everyone flinched. Just a little, but I saw it. Like they thought I was going to flip the table or throw something. Like I was the monster Lena was painting me as. I looked at my mother. You believe her. Mom wouldn't meet my eyes. I just think, maybe there's more to this than you're saying. There isn't. She's lying. She cheated. She got caught. And now she's trying to make me the bad guy so she can get money out of the divorce. Ethan, and you're helping her do it. I grabbed my jacket and headed for the door. Behind me, I heard Lena start to cry again. Those big theatrical sobs. I heard Mom comforting her. I heard Rachel say something sharp, but I didn't catch the words. I was halfway to my truck when Mom came out after me. Ethan, wait. I stopped. Didn't turn around. I'm not taking sides, she said. I'm just trying to understand. No, you're not. You've already decided. You're going to testify for her. If the court asks me questions, I have to answer honestly. Honestly? You're going to tell them I have a temper based on one incident that happened 2 years ago? You're going to help her lie about who I am? I'm not helping anyone lie. I turned around. Do you know what she's claiming in the divorce papers? She says I emotionally abused her, that I controlled her, that I isolated her. And you're going to get on the stand and tell a judge I punched a wall once, and that's going to be proof that she's right. Mom looked small suddenly, and old. I don't know what you want me to say. I want you to believe me. I want you to trust that I'm telling the truth. But you won't because she got to you first, and she's a better liar than I am. I got in my truck and drove away. That night I sat in my apartment and made a list. On one side, I wrote everything Lena had that I didn't. A good narrative, sympathy, the appearance of vulnerability. On the other side, I wrote everything I had. The truth, evidence, and a rage that was starting to feel less like weakness and more like fuel. I wasn't going to win by playing fair. Lena had already proven that. She'd gone nuclear, turned my family against me, and was betting that her lies would be more convincing than my truth. Fine. If that's how she wanted to play it, I'd play too. But I was done being the nice guy. I was done assuming people would believe me just because I was right. I'd spent 10 years as a paramedic keeping people alive. Turned out those same skills, observation and planning, and staying calm under pressure worked just as well for taking someone apart. The thing about revenge is that it works best when it's not just one big move. It's a series of small cuts, each one calculated, each one designed to hurt in a way that lasts. I started with Grant's car. It was a Thursday night, which meant Grant would be at his sales meeting until after 9. The lot at his condo complex would be mostly empty, and the broken streetlight near his parking spot meant it would be dark. I'd confirmed all of this over the past few weeks. I wasn't guessing. I was executing a plan. I waited until 10:30, late enough that people were inside for the night, but not so late that anyone driving by would find it suspicious. I wore dark clothes, a black hoodie, a baseball cap pulled low. I parked my truck 3 blocks away and walked. The lot was quiet. Grant's black Audi sat in its usual spot, gleaming even in the dim light. He washed it every Sunday. He loved that car more than he'd ever loved anything, including loyalty. I'd brought a tire iron from my truck. Not a weapon, a tool. There's a difference. I walked up to the car calmly, like I belonged there. I'd checked. I raised the tire iron and brought it down on the driver's side headlight. The glass shattered with a satisfying crunch. I did the passenger side next. Then the windshield. 3 hits, methodical, controlled. The glass spiderwebbed but didn't collapse entirely. The final court date was set for mid-January. This was it. The judge would make her ruling on everything: alimony, asset division, the restraining order. Ed was confident. He said we had momentum, that Lena's lies were catching up with her, but I wasn't leaving anything to chance. In the weeks leading up to the hearing, I kept working, kept gathering, kept planning. I found out through a mutual friend that Lena had opened a credit card in her own name about 6 months before I filed for divorce. She'd racked up $12,000 on it. Furniture, clothes, dinners out. I'd never known because we kept separate credit cards, and she'd hidden the statements. Ed was thrilled when I told him. That's her debt, not yours. And it shows she was planning for a split long before you found out about the affair. She was getting ready to leave me, I said, or setting up a backup plan. Either way, it helps us. I also found out, through Carlos, that the dealership where Grant worked was under investigation. Not because of anything I'd done exactly, but because someone had filed a complaint about misrepresented vehicle histories. The state was looking into it. Grant's name had come up. Did you have anything to do with that? Ed asked when I mentioned it. No. Ethan. I didn't file a complaint. I just mentioned some VIN numbers to someone who cared about that kind of thing. What they did with the information was up to them. Ed sighed. Be careful. You're walking a line. I'm always careful. The hearing started at 9 in the morning on a cold January day. The courthouse steps were icy, and I nearly slipped going in. Inside, it was overheated, the air dry and stale. Lena looked worse than she had at the last hearing. Thinner, paler. Her hair was pulled back in a messy ponytail, and her clothes looked like she'd grabbed them off the floor. Brennan whispered something to her, and she nodded, but she didn't look confident. Grant wasn't there. I didn't know if that was strategic or if he'd just given up. Judge Hennessy came in, and we started. Brennan argued for alimony first. He said Lena had been financially dependent on me, that she deserved support while she rebuilt her life. Ed countered with the credit card debt. Mrs. Cole accumulated $12,000 in debt without her husband's knowledge. This debt was incurred in the 6 months leading up to the separation. It's clear she was preparing to leave the marriage and funding a lifestyle Mr. Cole wasn't aware of. That's not true, Lena said, her voice sharp. Judge Hennessy looked at her. Mrs. Cole, you'll have a chance to testify. When Lena took the stand, Brennan tried to rehab her image. She talked about being lonely, about how the affair was a mistake, about how she just wanted to move on with her life. Ed's cross-examination was brutal. Mrs. Cole, you testified previously that you were afraid of your husband. Is that correct? Yes. Yet you stayed in the marriage for 7 years. I didn't have anywhere else to go. You had friends, you had family, you had a job. You could have left at any time. It's not that simple. You also testified that Mr. Cole controlled your finances, yet you opened a credit card in your own name and spent $12,000 without his knowledge. I needed things. What things? Furniture, clothes. For the home you shared with Mr. Cole? Yes. But you were planning to leave him? No, I didn't know. You didn't know you were going to cheat on him, or you didn't know you were going to get caught. Objection, Brennan said. Sustained, the judge said, but she was watching Lena closely. Ed kept going. Mrs. Cole, when did you start seeing your therapist? About 3 months ago. After your husband filed for divorce. Yes. And before that, you never sought help for the alleged abuse? I didn't know who to turn to. But you turned to Mr. Morrison, For comfort. Is that correct? Lena's face flushed. Yes. And that comfort turned physical? Yes. How long were you sleeping with Mr. Morrison before your husband found out? A few weeks. A few weeks, not months? Maybe a couple of months? Mrs. Cole, we have text messages between you and Mr. Morrison going back 8 months. Messages that are clearly romantic in nature. Were you lying to your husband for 8 months? Lena looked at Brennan. He looked like he wanted to object, but couldn't. I don't remember, Lena said finally. You don't remember lying to your husband for 8 months. I was confused. I was scared. Of your husband, who you claim was abusive. Yet you stayed. You lied. You accumulated debt. You cheated. And now you want him to pay you alimony. Objection. Withdrawn. Ed sat down. When it was over, Judge Hennessy took a recess to review her notes. We sat in the hallway, waiting. Lena was at the other end, crying into her phone. Brennan looked annoyed. We won, Ed said quietly. You don't know that. I know. Trust me. When the judge called us back in, her face was impassive. I've reviewed all the evidence and testimony in this case, she said. Here's my ruling. Mrs. Cole's request for alimony is denied. Mr. Cole has demonstrated that Mrs. Cole was not financially dependent on him to the degree claimed, and that she engaged in behavior that contributed to the breakdown of the marriage. The request for a restraining order is also denied. I see no evidence that Mr. Cole poses a danger to Mrs. Cole. As for asset division, the marital home will be sold, and proceeds will be split equally after outstanding debts are paid. Mrs. Cole's personal credit card debt is her responsibility. This court is dissolved. Lena made a sound like she'd been punched. Brennan stood up. Your Honor, we'd like to... This case is closed, Mr. Brennan. And that was it. We were done. Outside, Ed shook my hand. Congratulations. You're free. I didn't feel free. I felt empty. Hollow. Like I'd won something I didn't want anymore. But I wasn't done yet.